Welcome to this performance of Old Cowtown Suite, a virtual young people's concert. I'm Don Reinhold, Chief Executive Officer of the Wichita Symphony, and joining me are Jackie Gerson, Executive Director of Wichita's Old Cowtown Museum, and George S. Clinton, who composed the music you're about to hear.
I was inspired to write this piece when I visited Wichita for the first time a couple of years ago and had the pleasure of touring the Old Cowtown Museum. I felt a deep emotional connection to this place, and this music was born out of that experience.
Old Cowtown Museum is delighted to be a partner for this production, and we hope you enjoy the scenes from the museum you'll see accompanying the music.
Please enjoy this performance of Old Cowtown Suite, written by me and performed for you by the Wichita Symphony Orchestra.
I'm here at the Chisholm Trail in downtown Wichita, where there used to be cattle instead of cars. Can you imagine what it was like to be a cowboy on the Chisholm Trail? Picture a 2-month-long journey across open prairies, rivers, and badlands. You, along with 9 other cowboys, a cook, and a horse wrangler, are responsible for about 2,500 head of cattle. Your job is to get the cattle safely from Texas to Kansas, where they'll be taken by railroad to cities in the east and sold. During the day, you help the cattle safely cross rivers, traveled through prairie storms, and protected them from thieves. You also made sure they grazed so that they would gain weight and be sold for a higher price once you reach Cowtown. At night, you lay out in the cool, dark prairie, staring up at the vast starry skies, hoping to get some rest before another day of unknown adventures. Your story, and the story of other cowboys who take the journey on the Chisholm Trail, will shape the legend of the American West.
Hi, I'm Tim Jones, the Associate Concertmaster of the Wichita Symphony. That means I sit in the front row of the violin section, and I help the concertmaster lead the orchestra. The sounds of music can paint a picture in our minds, or make us feel lots of different emotions. In the next movement, The Church and the Jail, you will hear sounds that might remind you of the warm, fuzzy feeling you get when your family gathers together at the holidays. Then you'll hear some very different sounds that could remind you of feeling lonely and sad. There are many ways to make these different feelings come alive in the music. For example, in the holiday scene at the church, the stringed instruments, violins, violas, cellos, and basses, use their bows to make very warm sounds, like this. Then, listen for the sleigh bells of a horse trotting past the church doors. Next, you will hear a very different kind of music depicting the jail scene, where a prisoner sits alone in his jail cell. A single cello plays a sad solo. There are very few instruments playing in this part, which makes it feel very lonely. When the violas enter, they play pizzicato, or plucked strings, like this. It sounds much colder than when they played with their bows in the beginning. What other things can you notice about how music helps tell a story?
Hi there. My name is George S. Clinton, and I am a music composer. Now that's just a fancy way of saying I make stuff up. I bet some of you have made up songs or tunes just for fun. Well, when I was a kid, I did that too. I like doing it so much that I went to music school, and now I do it for a living. Sometimes I make stuff up for movies. The way I do that is to watch the movie without any music in it and imagine what kind of music the movie needs. Is it happy, sad, fun, scary? Then I write it, an orchestra records it, and my music is added to the movie. Well, writing for a concert is not that different. For the Old Cowtown Suite, I went to the Old Cowtown Museum and imagined what it would be like to be a cowboy on the Chisholm Trail or living in Cowtown 200 years ago. The next movement is about an instrument from the Old West called a nickelodeon, which is a coin-operated piano with drums and cymbals in it. For this music, I imagined the nickelodeon would sound like as it got older and older. If you go to the museum, let your imagination be your guide. Who knows? You might be inspired to do a drawing or write a poem, or even compose some music about it like I was.
Many settlers came to Kansas for the promise of a better life. They hoped to start a farm and make a decent living for their families. However, those who arrived had difficult days ahead of them. They faced scorching heat in the summer and biting cold in the winter. In addition, families were often spread out with few neighbors nearby, sometimes several miles apart. These harsh conditions led many to leave their prairie homes, while the remaining settlers gathered every ounce of courage they had to stick it out. With each year, they faced the challenges of growing food, staying healthy, and simply surviving. It was a difficult existence settling these rugged plains, and yet they endured, and some even thrived. The resilience they demonstrated is an example for all of us to follow today. When faced with difficulty, might we press on and continue to pursue what we hope for most?
Hi, my name's Ryan, and I'm the blacksmith here at Cowtown. And we make things out of metal. And your three most important tools as a blacksmith would be your fire, your anvil, and a good hammer. The fire is very important because you have to get the metal hot enough that it becomes soft and malleable so that you can shape it between your big hard anvil and your hammer. With your fire and your anvil and your hammer, you can make pretty much anything you need, from nails to horseshoes to barrel rings to gate pieces, hooks, more tools, hammers, punches. Next time you're out at Cowtown, make sure you swing by the blacksmith shop and see what we're making.
Hi, welcome to the Old Cowtown Museum print shop. This is kind of a reproduction of Mr. Murdoch, who published the Wichita City Eagle. Now, if you want to see the eagle, you're probably going to have to go on the internet. But back in the day, if you worked here, you'd probably find yourself along that wall at those workstations picking out every letter. Yep, every letter. It's like a little stamp, but you had to put them all together, make sentences and whatnot. Now, we have capital letters and small letters. Why in the world did they call them also uppercase and lowercase? Well, that's because these boxes full of letters are called cases, type cases. That's what we call the letters. And if you're going to print something, well, you're going to need a lot of small letters. So you pull that case out and put it right here close to you so it can get real nice and close. But once in a while, you're going to need a capital letter, maybe the beginning of a sentence, somebody's name. So you pull out the case full of capital letters and put it right up above. So capital letters come out of the uppercase and small letters come out of the lowercase. Newspapers were a public service because there wasn't any radio or TV, and the people wanted to know what was going on, maybe back where they came from or on the other side of the world. You know, if you're interested in more, you could come visit Old Cowtown Museum.
Howdy, I'm Greg. I'm the farmer here at Old Cowtown Museum, and this is Rosie. Her job out here is to greet the visitors. My job is to take care of Rosie. Now, I know it's improper to talk about a lady's age or weight, but Rosie probably weighs 900 pounds, and she's 16 years old, which is pretty old for a cow. So every day, she probably eats 25 pounds of hay. She'll drink up to 20 or 30 gallons of water. A lot of people haven't been up close and personal with a cow before, because these days it's kind of hard to run across a cow. So next time you're out at Old Cowtown Museum, make sure you drop by and say hello to Rosie.
you.